Commissioner, does the administration have a message for industry and private businesses that have operations in Texas? Like, would the president and the White House support a boycott of sorts against Texas?
That's not a call we're making from here. What our effort and what the focus of the federal government is to look for every resource, every lever at our disposal to ensure women in Texas have the ability to seek health care.
Following up on the Texas law, why does the president support abortion when his own Catholic faith teaches abortion is morally wrong?
Well, he believes that it's a woman's right, it's a woman's body, and it's her choice.
Why does the president, who does he believe then should look out for the unborn child?
He believes that it's up to a woman to make those decisions and up to a woman to make those decisions with her doctor. I know you've never faced those choices, nor have you ever been pregnant, but for women out there who have faced those choices, this is an incredibly difficult thing. The president believes their rights should be respected. Go ahead. I think we got to move on. I think we have to move on. You've had plenty of time today. Go ahead.
How many green card holders and SIV applicants? You said you were going to check on the specifics, so just to be clear, the president does support the Women's Health Protection Act?
We are looking at a range of options in Congress, including the Women's Health Protection Act, but I don't have an assessment at this point in time about that piece of legislation.
And will there be a point person for this whole government approach, like with voting rights or with immigration? And if not, why not?
The president conveyed clearly in his statement he'd asked the Gender Policy Council co-chairs to oversee this effort.
And what's the timeline on that policy council?
I'm not.
When will they have a deadline to get back to him, or when they may produce a report?
Well, I wouldn't look at it as producing a report. They are going to be coordinating all of the leverage and all of the efforts and policy options across the government. And the president wants them to act as quickly as possible. So it's not a means of 100 days and then we'll get a report. It's let's see what our options are and let's act on them. Go ahead.
If I could just try to drill down on that. The president did say an immediate response is required. I know you said you're not in a position to preview any, but what does the White House see as a federal responsibility here? I mean, you're talking about the possibility of involving the Justice Department, HHS. In Oklahoma, there are clinics that are saying, okay, we are offering the service, come here. Is that something that the federal government could do? Provide transportation for women outside the state of Texas?
These are all great questions, and I would note that it wasn't just the Department of Justice that the president referenced in his statement on purpose, right? Because the Department of Health and Human Services has a range of resources, funding, programs that they can look at and potentially deploy. And yes, it is urgent. The president wants them to look at these programs now and come back and see what's possible, but it has been less than a day here, and I just want the experts and the policy experts to be able to assess what's possible, and then we will get back to you and make sure you all know exactly what our options look like. Go ahead.
With that, we'll just throw it open for questions from the press and then have a chance to visit briefly with the speaker before she heads to her 3:15 appointment. So she's here to answer the questions. Please proceed. Anyone with a question out there? Yes, sir. Come ahead.
Yeah, Speaker Pelosi, President Biden said this morning that he wanted a whole government response to the no abortion law here in Texas. He specifically said HHS, DOJ. Besides, as you mentioned, codifying Roe v. Wade into law, what other steps can and should the federal government take to intervene?
Well, first and foremost, we have our responsibility in the House, which is legislation. And we have, as Lloyd and as many of you know, we operate in three ways. One is with funding, one is with the tax code, and one is with making policy. And we have been able to show our respect for a woman's right to choose, not only in our own country, but with globally, to make sure that women have access to family planning and the rest. But to codify Roe v. Wade, it will make a tremendous, tremendous difference. And that is where our focus will be. Yes, in terms of a whole government response, I fully appreciate that. And that really will just mean increasing some of what we had done in the past that was curtailed, so we say, in recent years. But we look forward to working with the president to prioritize that. We have our Reproductive Freedom Task Force in the House, and they've been working on this. When we do codifying of Roe v. Wade, I just want to make one point. We will have an amendment to it to make sure it captures the, shall we say, action taken in Texas that made it it makes it difficult to explain, but nonetheless, we will mitigate for that damage that they're causing here as well. Did you want to say anything about that?
Well, just agree with you heartily. This is a real setback, I think. Justice Sotomayor's dissent was so powerful regarding the disgrace of this court and the injustice to women all over the country. Other questions? Yes, sir.
Is that better? That?
Yes.
Do you hear any other states taking similar measures, and how might that shape your response?
Sorry, I didn't understand.
I was asking if other states may follow what they may do.
Oh, yes, there may be copycat legislation. Right now, the case that will probably come before the court is from Mississippi, which is 15 weeks. That is, we'll see how they judge there, but there will be other states that may copy the Texas model, which is not a state action, but right of private action, which is clever, very, very dangerous. And so, we expect to see copycats. And that's why it's necessary for having the national law passed of Roe v. Wade, protecting women's rights wherever they live across the country, whatever their economic status is.
And do you expect any Republican support in Congress?
I really don't speak for the Republicans. They like it that way. So do I. I don't know. I'll just close by saying this. Lloyd has heard me say this so many times. President Lincoln said, public sentiment is everything. With it, you can accomplish almost anything. Without it, practically nothing. But for public sentiment to prevail, people have to know. Well, right now, people do know the danger that reproductive health is in. And we're talking about termination of a pregnancy here. But understand this, in the Congress, the Republicans have been opposed to contraception, family planning, anything that would minimize the need for somebody to make such a decision. So it's not just about, they like to talk about extreme cases, but what they're deflecting attention from family planning, birth control. They don't support any of that. They do not support any of that. And that's most unfortunate. And I can say that, as I say, I have 5 children, 5 in 6 years, almost to the day, within the week. And that was a blessing that God gave us. That's our family's decision. Other people should have the choice to be able to do what meets their family's prospects and the rest. So I think we have to be, let me say this, very prayerful about this. This is so personal for people. This is about who they are. This bill in Texas, it said they couldn't even talk to their husband about what their decision might be. It doesn't have an exception for rape and incest. How disrespectful can you be of women and their reproductive rights to say such a thing? What could they be thinking? But in any event, what it does do is, because most people didn't think this could happen. Nobody would ever do that. Yeah. Now they know that somebody would do that. So nothing is more eloquent to a member of Congress than the voice of his or her own constituents. So when they hear from their own constituents, then we'll see how they would vote. But again, this is personal. People have their religious views and the rest. We want to be respectful of that. And we want them to be respectful of the reproductive rights of America's women.
What's going on in Texas? First you make it tougher for people to vote, and now you're taking away a woman's right to choose? That's been settled law for 50 years. Come on, we're not going to let that happen here in Connecticut. Just the opposite. I'm going to make sure that a woman's right to choose is protected. We have it in statute. As long as I'm here, it's going to stay in statute. We're not going to let happen in Connecticut what happened in Texas.
Good morning, everybody. Usually we start talking every morning about COVID, about the fight against COVID. And that's what we focus on. But right now we've got something absolutely shocking to talk about and troubling, really, really troubling. We have news just now from late last night from the Supreme Court. And this was literally done in the dead of night, and it reflects a Supreme Court profoundly out of touch with the American mainstream, and more a court dominated by right-wing extremists. The Supreme Court refused to stop Texas Senate Bill 8, which is essentially almost a complete ban on abortions in the state of Texas. This is deeply troubling, and the Supreme Court, by not acting, made a very, very troubling decision that has ramifications for us here in New York, for the entire country. It's a direct assault on the rights of women. Let's not mince words here. This will endanger the lives of women in Texas immediately. It will put women's lives in danger. It will certainly endanger the rights that women have had for decades in this country. It's an assault on the gains that women have made in our society. It's an attempt to pull us backwards. We cannot let this stand. I just want to be very clear. This is going to require a national mobilization to fight against this, because we can tell right now through this action where the Supreme Court wants to go, and it's profoundly unacceptable. And on top of all that is what they've done, what this court has done, and the Supreme Court's inaction in every way appears to be unconstitutional, because Roe v. Wade has clearly been the law of the land.